I'm trying to determine the minimum amount of string that I need to cut from a reel to string a Wilson Clash racket. What I've done is I've cut 36 feet of string off of a reel of string, and I'm going to string this two-piece, and I want to try to find out what the minimum is. My 36 feet, the way I measured it is I used 16 racket lengths. 16 times 27 inches is 36 feet. Then I used 4 racket lengths to do the short side on this particular racket. When I get done tying off the mains, I'll measure how much string I have left down here on the short side in excess, so I can subtract that the next time that I string a racket. Now that I've finished stringing the mains on the long side of the racket, I'm going to cut off the tail, which is probably about 18 feet long at least, on the long side of the string that I used to string this racket. Then I'm not going to use this end to string the top crosses. I'm going to use the opposite end. Once I got my top 3 crosses pre-weaved, I ran in my outer 2 mains on the short side of my string, and I've got 12.5 inches of string left over, and that string is just enough to reach the back of my gripper. So I'm going to go on and tie off the short side. After tying off the short side, I've got 11 inches of string left over, and that 11 inches of string is garbage. I've used a starting knot here with about a 1-inch tail on it that I'm going to use to run in my top cross. Then I can cut off my tail. And let me just measure it here. Oops, I exaggerated a little bit. That's 3/4 of an inch. So what I found out from this little experiment so far is by using 9 foot of string on the short side, it's just enough to reach the back of my gripper and tie off. If I want to use less than that, let's just say I want to go to the front of the Diablo, I could use a starting clamp and actually bridge my string and save a couple of inches, but I'm not necessarily interested in that. Well, here's what I cut off the long side, off the bottom cross when I tied off. Actually, it was 35 inches past the end of my gripper. So I can take almost 3 feet off of the 36, so I'll have 33 feet 1 inch the next time I string a Wilson Clash with multifilament string, this one is actually Technofiber Multifil at 53 pounds. And here that racket is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to string this racket, but instead of cutting off 36 feet off of the reel of string, I'm going to cut off 33 feet and see if it works out okay. Now I've pretty much got the same thing I did the last time. I used 36 feet the last time and 9 foot for the short side. I'm still using 9 foot for the short side because that left me enough string just to reach the back of my gripper. But instead of using 36 feet, what I did is I cut 33 feet 1 inch off the reel. Actually, that was 15 racket lengths minus 8 inches. Okay, again, just like the first time, I had just enough string to reach the end of my gripper. So I'm going to throw away about 11 inches of string again. Well, when I tied off the bottom cross down here, I had not quite enough to reach my gripper. Or excuse me, the back of my gripper. It was about maybe an inch or so short. But what I did is I just used my starting clamp as a bridge, had no problems with it at all. I think the reason for that is because I used a tail on my starting knot. It was a little bit longer than what I normally use. It was probably an inch and a half or so. But anyway, everything worked out fine. So what that's telling me is if I wanted to string a Wilson Clash 100 again with multifilament string at 53 pounds of tension, I don't need to use 38 feet of string like Wilson stringing instructions suggest. I can get by with less than that. I think in the future what I'd do is I'd use 15 racket lengths, which is just a little bit under 34 feet. It's about 33.75 feet. So if I had a racket similar to this, what I could do is I could try out that idea. And here's a racket similar to that. It's a 2018 Pure Drive, 100 square inch, same pattern, 16 by 19. This is my next experiment. Okay, here's the same experiment just about. I've got a 100 square inch racket. It's 16 mains by 19 crosses. And the first two times when I used the clashes, I used 36 feet of string the first time and just over 33 feet of string the second time. What I'm doing now is I used 15 racket lengths, which is about 33 feet 9 inches of string. Because I've got an extra 8 inches in there, I decided to use 4 racket lengths plus about 2 inches on the end. So now instead of having 9 foot for the short side, I got about 9 foot 2 inches, and I'm going to give that a try. Alright, I used almost the same method again. I used 9 feet 2 inches on the short side. Then what I cut off on the long side, I used to string in my top 3 crosses, and I'm starting that top cross with a starting knot. Because I used 9 foot 2 inches on the short side, I expected the string down here that I tied off to be 2 inches past my gripper. But it wasn't 2 inches past the end of my gripper. It just reached the end of my gripper. So the short side on the Pure Drive racket takes a little bit more string. So it's a good thing I added 2 inches and made it 9 foot 2 inches instead of going with 2 inches. What I could have done if I was short is again just use the same thing. Use my starting clamp as a bridge, and I would have got around that situation anyway. So anyway, there's the piece of string that I'm throwing away. It's about 11 inches long, maybe a foot, I don't know. But I'm going to start stringing a racket. Okay, when I got down to the end and tied this bottom cross off, I had about 2 inches of string that went past my gripper. So it looks like even though the Bobble-Lot is 100 square inch and they're both 16 by 19 patterns and the density is about the same, this Bobble-Lot's going to take a little bit more string than the Clash 100 did. So long story short, the Clash Wilson stringing instructions say it takes 38 feet of string to string that racket. 20 feet for the mains and 18 feet for the crosses. That'll give me about 17 string jobs out of a reel of string. Using the method I've been using here, I can get about almost 20 string jobs out of it. So 19 is good enough for me. That saves me some money for those 2 sets of strings. The Pro Drive, I looked on ClipperMate website and it said I need 20 feet for the crosses, which is plenty, and 19 feet for the, 20 feet for the mains and 19 feet for the crosses. That gives me a little under 17 string jobs per reel. And again, I can get 19 out of it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you got any questions, please leave them in comments below and I'll respond to them. Thank you very much for watching.